Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Kelly Geiser and I'm the event coordinator at West, hosting today's webinar, Crowdfunding, Building a Successful Campaign. West is a nonprofit funded by the Federal Small Business Administration Agency program. We are both a women's business center and a small business development center for Mendocino and Lake County. Through federal and state agencies matched with local community contributions, it is your tax dollars that allow us to provide our services to you for free. Our services include one-on-one counseling, webinars, loan package readiness, and advising to small business owners and entrepreneurs at every stage of business development. We also have a pool of expert advisors that cover niche business needs from permitting to HR and e-commerce. So if you'd like to learn more about becoming a West client, please visit our website or give our office a call. A really quick disclaimer that today's webinar is for educational and informational purposes only. You can read that in more detail on our website, and that we are recording today's webinar. An email with a link to the recording and a copy of today's slides will be sent to all registrants. Please keep an eye out for it in your inbox or possibly spam box. So without any further ado, I'm pleased to introduce today's instructor, Baqi Kopelman, who will introduce today's webinar, Crowdfunding, Building a Successful Campaign.
Hi, I'm Baqi, and maybe some of you were present at the introduction to crowdfunding, the previous class. I come from a background of media that I moved into directing, producing, and then branding, etc. But we'll just move on. This is advanced crowdfunding for business, or whatever the title is that Kelly just said. Crowdfunding is a great way for businesses and entrepreneurs to raise money for endeavors they believe will be profitable: starting a business, growing a business, launching a product, etc. Today, we'll go over the process of preparing a successful CF campaign. And everyone here should know that the lingo is CF. So that to be cool, you got to say CF, not crowdfunding. We're not going to go into a lot of specifics on different platforms. Rather, we're going to address what you would need to do regardless of the platform. All right, crowdfunding campaigns. Please keep in mind, we're only discussing crowdfunding for business and products today, or services. We're not discussing other areas of crowdfunding such as causes, nonprofits, special projects, non-commercial art, and personal needs. The first step to a successful crowdfunding campaign is selecting the right CF platform through research. This is a process undertaken before you begin building your CF campaign. CF platforms, sorry, I got to move something. CF platforms, so basically, your selection should be made before you begin this endeavor. If you haven't looked at any of the platforms that are out there, you definitely should. There's over 700, but there are a few main platforms. It's easy to identify which platform is best for what and who has what audience. And we address some of the details around other platforms in the previous webinar, which was Introduction to Crowdfunding. So we're not going to go into specifics about crowdfunding platforms today. All right, we are going to cover preparation, resources, and daily effort, because that is what is required to have a successful CF campaign. Preparation, part one. So I'm going to outline a bunch of things that are very important for you to develop and create and produce and keep in mind for your CF campaign. And we can talk at the end about practical versions of all of these things. But some of this stuff is broad strokes, so you understand the essence of what you need. Value proposition: why your business or your idea or your service or your product should exist or should grow. So you need to be able to tell yourself, tell your friends, and eventually tell investors what makes your campaign, your business, your idea, what makes this a worthy investment for individuals and for society as a whole. And that might be a big thing, because maybe making organic bagels doesn't benefit society as a whole, you think. But what I mean by that, and why I'm stopping to address that, is the value proposition should attempt to look at larger aspects of your community or your global community, because people definitely want to invest in businesses and ideas and products that are not only profitable, but also benefit their community or society as a whole. You'll attract a lot more investment by keeping that in mind, as opposed to just having a value proposition that explains why your product is going to make a lot of money. Mission statement. In 3 sentences or less, describe the mission of your business. What is the mission of your business? The big picture view. We'll go over a couple examples in a minute. Brand statement. Create a clear statement explaining what your business is about. This involves the attitude, perspective, and approach to your business or your product or your services and the goals you've set. The difference between the mission statement and the brand statement is the mission statement is a big picture of what your overall mission is as a business owner or an entrepreneur or as a business. The brand statement lets people know the attitude of the product. So your mission might be to sell shoes, but the brand statement would address shoes for whom? Hikers, babies, etc. Goals. Your goals should be realistic and achievable. The audience must believe you can do it. And more importantly, you must actually be able to do it, because failed crowdfunding campaigns can be a big disappointment for everyone involved. What goals have you set for your CF campaign and the results thereof? So again, realistic and achievable goals. All right, preparation part 1 here, the reason that this is preparation part 1, I'm just addressing some of these statements with real world examples. Apple computers, their value proposition is Apple's core value is to make the best products in the market and focus on selected products so they can develop and innovate. I think that's kind of a sloppy value proposition, but I get what they mean. Mission statement. This is my typo, I think, to bring the best user experience to customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. That's a great mission statement. It covers everything that they produce, hardware, software, and services. It addresses their customers as customers, and it talks about best user experience. So now we know their mission is the user experience within this realm, okay? Brand statement. Power to the people through technology, right? Brand statements have an emotional content very often to them. Now I feel, ooh, power to the people, right? So they've grabbed a statement that, or a phrase that was popular in the 20th century and attached it to technology. So now they've made a cultural reference that maybe people don't even realize is happening, but it triggers a lot of emotional content in people who recognize it. So power to the people through technology. And then they add on, the Apple brand personality is about lifestyle, imagination, liberty regained, implying that their customers feel that liberty was lost somewhere along the way. Innovation, passion, hopes, dreams, and aspirations, and power to the people through technology. And their goal is to deliver the best products on earth. These statements were taken from their website, so this is really what they say about themselves. And it's always good when you're doing anything in business that involves marketing or outreach to look at the largest companies in the field or in the world, or the most successful companies, to understand what they're doing and saying, because obviously they're doing something properly. That's why they're the largest companies on earth. It doesn't make them the best, but you can learn a lot. Here's another one from Nike, and the reason I added it is I wanted to show or demonstrate how these statements are used in multiple places, not just in crowdfunding, but in your marketing campaigns for your business overall. So read other companies' statements to better understand how to communicate your intended audience. Nike, our mission, bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And the asterisk says, if you have a body, you are an athlete. So they wanted to be a little funny there and playful, and also not get cornered by people on social media saying, I'm not an athlete, maybe I shouldn't buy your shoes. Because by identifying in their mission their audience or their customer as athletes, everyone who's not an athlete automatically won't buy their shoes. That's why the asterisk is there. They put out images of different, they put out different images with the same words on the front in their marketing. So mission statements and brand statements are used over and over again. Preparation part 2, identify your audience. So part 1, this is all about understanding who you are as a business or as a innovator or an entrepreneur, and making sure you can explain that to people very, very quickly and easily and powerfully. Preparation part 2 is identifying your audience, meaning who wants your business idea, services, or product. This needs to cover the demographics of your potential customers. And those demographics are either people or businesses, depending on what you're creating. You might be B2B, business to business, or you might be direct to consumer, etc. Identify leading competition. What other businesses offer a version, what other businesses offer a version of what you're proposing? What businesses are a fair comparison? Or if this is new, why is there no competition yet? And competition and innovation. Is your proposed business idea, service, product entering a competitive field, or is it an innovation? Competition is not bad. Innovation is difficult to market. You must understand the market. So why this is so important to crowdfunding is you need to be able to tell your potential investors who your audience is, who will be buying or generating commercial activity around your idea, service, etc. And in identifying your audience, who your customers are, you're also helping to identify your audience in a crowdfunding environment, because many of your investors will be your customers. They're not just people who are investing money in good ideas but don't care about the idea. They're usually people who want to participate or own whatever it is that you're offering. Why you need to identify your leading competition, outside of the fact that it's just a good business practice, is you will need to present to potential investors real factual information about competition in this space. If you're proposing a type of business that is a growth business, and you can say, oh, look, there are all these other businesses that are doing very well at this, and now I'm going to do it even better, and I'm going to beat the competition. That is a compelling reason to invest in you. And while you're identifying the leading competition, you are also identifying elements of your business plan, which we'll discuss later, that might be flawed or incorrect based on the competition. Or you might discover that, wow, you have such an open field ahead of you because no one is really doing this. So, invest in me because no one else is doing it. Well, the question is, why is no one else doing it? Is no one else doing it because it's a bad business model or a bad idea, or because they haven't thought of it yet? And when you're writing your marketing copy and etc. later on, knowing about the competition or lack thereof will help you make your argument for your case. Competition and innovation. Innovation, if you have something totally new, you think, well, maybe it's easy to market because, well, no one has it. The truth is, it's very difficult to market innovation because you have to make people believe it's needed or it's an improvement. So you really, if you're dealing with something that you think is an innovation, you really need to do a lot more market research to understand why you are the first and be able to present that information to people. In a competitive field like shoes, you're basically, almost everyone in your market space buys and wears shoes. Therefore, competition isn't bad as long as your product achieves some level of standard above the leading competition. Excuse me. Preparation part 3. Who and how? Who's on your team and how will they achieve your goals? If you are given the requested investment, who will help you achieve the business goals and how will you be successful? Other resources. What other resources, skills, and experience do you have to be successful in the long term? Ideas don't run companies. The day-to-day activity of experienced people or dedicated people, experience is maybe the wrong adjective, run companies. Return on investment. How will investors see a return? What's the timeline? People generally invest for their own benefit and they want to know how and when they will win or be rewarded. That return might be a financial return. That return might be simply getting the item. You've invented a new flashlight that's solar powered and it's really great and every camper should have one. And now all these people invest $20 in your crowdfund campaign and they want to know, when will I actually get my flashlight? A year, 6 months, etc. So knowing the answers to these questions and identifying it and then building out that information is critical because you need to share that in your CF campaign. Here's my team, here's how we will work together to achieve our goals, here's the experience or the resources that we have that to make sure that after we achieve the first goal of our crowdfunding and get going, we're going to continue as a long-term successful business or service idea, etc. And return on investment, if you do not let people know how they're going to win or be rewarded, then they are doubtful that they will ever be rewarded or win. All right. So along the way, and this can happen probably earlier than it is in this presentation, you're going to need a business plan. A solid business plan is required for a successful CF campaign. It's one thing to have an idea. It's another typo, entirely to execute the idea. And I put a little asterisk. A business plan can be created with the help of any SBA office if you're not in Mendocino or Lake counties. But all the SBA offices and their consultants have people on their team to help you create a business plan. A business plan will help outline some of the elements from preparation 3, the who, how, resources, financials, and timelines. Depending on the type of crowdfunding campaign you're running and the platform requirements and the scale of it, having a formal business plan in writing and presented with visuals and charts and graphs and financials and all that will help make your case that you have a long-term plan that will be successful and is worthy of investment and attention. All right, resources part 1. Before I get into this, I mentioned it later in the presentation, you may very well want to get people to help you with all this stuff, whether it's free consultation from SBA consultants and advisors, or whether you hire people or recruit friends and family. It's best to have at least a small team while you're doing a crowdfunding campaign so that you have people to bounce ideas off and help you with the heavy lifting and projects, etc. All right, you're going to need to first figure out all the things that we just went over about your company and you and your skills and your resources and all that. And then when you feel solid, okay, I have a great business plan, I have a great idea, I know who's on my team, I have my value proposition, my statement, my mission, and all that, I'm ready. I've chosen a platform. Now you need to build up the resources that you're going to need to run this campaign. And you're going to want to do this in advance of launching the campaign. So, resources part 1, copy. You will need to write copy for all the elements of the preparation list, as well as for multiple types of communications. Company statements, website, social media, product or service descriptions, communications, PR, press releases, updates, formal responses to questions, etc. Getting started with copy includes identifying words, phrases, and overall tone in advance of producing any communications or documents. What adjectives do you use? What are the phrases or slogans you will repeat? How do you refer to your customers? What's the tone? A good understanding of your target audience, both customers and investors, will help you identify the right approach and tone. And we can talk about that in the Q&A if you would like. I'm just going to keep going here. Resources, part 2, media. You will need media assets, photos, videos, graphics, logos, symbols, etc., to communicate your CF campaign to potential investors. The CF space is highly competitive, and communication online through visual media is required to be competitive and successful. You cannot run a good CF campaign without photos, videos, graphics, logos, etc. And we can talk in the Q&A about the quality and all that. I'm not saying you have to run out and pay thousands and thousands of dollars for the best of all these things. Very often what you can produce on your own or with people around you will suffice, but it will be a part of your campaign. Identifying the multiple layers of media assets needed will take some time. The platform you have selected will have plenty of examples, and your competition for fundraising dollars will be sharing their best media assets to communicate their value proposition. All forms of communications will require some media: photos, video, logos, graphics. Every email, social media post, the posts on the campaign itself, all this sort of stuff will at some point at least require your logo or your colors or something like that. Media assets. A successful CF campaign has a compelling story to tell. Once you have identified and produced all the preparation elements, you'll need to create a story around your business idea, product, service. The story you create must be compelling and engaging. It must stand out in a busy, fast-paced, media-based world of online communication and distraction. Producing quality media and a compelling story is something that you may seek professional help to create. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it does have to be good. And I'm going to come back to the story at the end of this presentation. The story is so important to letting people feel your passion for your project and what you're doing, to understand who you are and what it is that they're supporting. A product might be great, the solar flashlight, but I want to know who's making it, who will benefit from my investment, what else have they done in their life, what's their goal. And beyond the simple mission statement and brand statement that everyone's familiar with, that people enjoy but also take, with a grain of salt, so to speak, your story is an opportunity to be emotional and real and true to you and your brand and your project in a way that will not only compel people to engage, but will make people want to share. And sharing stories is something that we love to do as humans and in our culture. So a powerful story can really launch your campaign to a success level better than all the facts and figures that you are also required to have. Resources, part 3. Validation and communication platforms. When potential investors are considering an investment in your CF campaign, they will do research. What they discover will make all the difference. The best way to control your story is to use all available tools to engage with potential investors. Having a quality active website, social media accounts, a functioning email platform that is professional, online bios, etc., will help ensure that interested investors can discover what they want, what you want them to discover about you, your team, and your business idea, product, or service. This does not mean you need to be present on every and all platforms in existence. It means choose what will serve you best and is reasonable for you to manage. So if you don't have a website, then maybe you're going to need one. But if you do have one, maybe you just need to make sure it's updated and it's active and modern. If you only use one form of social media, that's okay. You don't have to be on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and blah, 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 although you can be. It's more important to be active and present and engage. It's called social media because you have to be social in it to be successful, meaning you have to put in engagement time, hours of the week. So only have as many accounts as you can manage and that you feel are forward facing to your potential customers and investors. Email platform, professional email services, there are free ones like MailChimp, etc., are really important to being able to reach out to your investors, potential investors, customers, etc. Even if you don't yet have an email account or an email list, we can address that. You're really going to need to use that professional platform. You don't want to be sending out emails from your own account. And there are rules and laws about that. It's called spam. Online bios, etc., all that sort of stuff. You're going to want to figure out what platforms you're using. You're going to want to dress them up beautifully. You're going to want to use the same images and the same copy and languages in all places. So wherever someone discovers you, they discover the same thing. If someone only uses Twitter, you want them to have the same experience that someone on Facebook or someone who went to your website has. You don't want to confuse people by having different anything anywhere. You really want to be uniform across these things. Resources, part 3. Online platforms and tools. Website, build it and they will come. Social media, use only platforms you are ready to monitor and produce daily or weekly activity for. Professional reference sites, make sure you and your team have searchable references such as LinkedIn, etc. if what you're proposing requires the type of job status or references that investors will be looking for on professional reference sites. Email campaign services, sending emails is critical to your campaign success. Google and Apple Maps business listings. Your existing business, if it does already exist, needs to be easily found via search. Use online platforms to make researching you and your business easy for potential investors and customers. All right, daily activity part 1. And I say daily activity because I've run a few very, very successful crowdfunding campaigns. One that made over $1 million, one that went 3 times over its set goal of 50,000 to 150,000. And what you'll find with all campaigns is if you're not there being active on a daily level and checking everything every day for the 90 days this thing is running or however long you're going to run it, then you're not going to win because it's really competitive and there's a lot of communication back and forth that needs to happen between potential investors, etc. And you need to keep pushing forward your message always. So pre-launch, preparing all aspects of your media and resources. This process can take months to accomplish. Don't rush it. You only get one chance to win over investors. The internet never forgets failures. So if you go into your campaign when you're not ready and it fails, it's really hard to go again. It doesn't have to take months to prepare this, but I say that because it really can take that long depending on the scale of what you're trying to do and on your ability to hire outside help. If you're doing almost everything yourself, give yourself a really good runway so that you're not panicked when the time comes. The first phase of actually launching a CF campaign is preparation. Review all needed elements of the platform you've selected. Produce all needed plans, copy, and media assets. Enlist a team to help you. Set up online social accounts or perfect them, modify them. Establish a base level of completion of all tasks before proceeding into the launch phase. And what I mean by base level is you'll create as many media assets as you can, but you're not going to be able to write every email you're going to send out in advance. You might be able to write it a week in advance once you're in your campaign, but there are some things that you're going to need to produce as you go, and media assets may be produced as you go if you get press, if you get a new video, etc. But you want to have a good archive of these things and be able to get through at least the first 2 weeks of your campaign without needing to produce much new content other than copy. Daily activity part 2, pre-launch action plan. Prepare a plan for launch and each day of the campaign. Prepare a plan for launch and each day of the campaign by creating a CF campaign calendar and strategy. Preparing your basic business elements in media, along with setting up online accounts or improving existing accounts, is the foundation of your campaign. Now you need to build the house before you invite anyone in to see what you've done. So you have all your elements in place. You've actually loaded everything up onto your platform that you've selected to run this campaign on. And so that's your foundation. And now you need to literally continue building all the, in this metaphor, the walls of the house and the windows, and furnish it and decorate it so that when you do invite people to see it, it's just fabulous and they love it the moment they come in. A CF campaign runs on a plan a lot like a political campaign. You must have an execution plan for all potential situations, good or bad, that may arise during the campaign period. Once you start, you cannot stop. The platform will allow you to slowly input assets and information and build your campaign for your own review before launching. So you might be 30 days into your campaign and everything's going along pretty well, and then suddenly some really bad news comes out about the world, about life, and somehow it affects your campaign. Or a bad situation arises. Your supplier of fabric just told you you can't have the fabric to make the pants that you said you were making for everyone in your campaign that were going to be ready in 60 days. Now they won't be ready for 120 days, and you're going to need to communicate everything to your investors and to future potential investors of what's going on. Once someone invests in your campaign, you owe them an explanation and an update on how things are going, because as an investor, they're actually part of your, well, your firm, your company, your business. And so you want to be prepared to tell them what good is happening. Hey, we just raised a lot more money. Hey, we just partnered with so-and-so. This is going so well. Or here's the bad news, but we have these remedies in place, etc. Here are some specifics on mapping out your daily activity. The flow of your CF campaign should be mapped out with a plan. Email campaigns, how often and what are they going to address? Social media campaigns, paid online ads and promoted posts, rewards and incentive timelines, CF campaign site updates, responses to inquiries, press releases, partner activities. So you're going to set a timeline with goals. You're going to create a calendar or multiple calendars to, you might have a social media calendar that literally has the media asset that you're going to share. It had on the date and the copy for that post and the follow-up, etc., the links. You might have a calendar just for your email campaign. You might have a calendar for hitting benchmarks and alerting your investors of things. You might have a calendar for surprises, or who knows. Build all your assets, review your assets and everything you've done and improve them. Recruit trusted opinions before you let anything out or share anything. Get help when needed. Be thoughtful with the timing of your launch. Maybe you don't launch on a holiday weekend, etc., that kind of thing. Be aware of what's going on in the marketplace, in the stock market, in the world, in social life, etc. And get ready to push hard once you launch. In the Q&A, we can address any questions that you might have about specifics on each of these points: email campaign, social media, paid online, etc. But everything you see here on the left is basically a list of the ingredients that makes campaigns successful. And you'll notice paid online ads and promoted posts. There is some money to spend here. You don't have to, but other people are, and that is what drives competition. So rewards and incentives. So some platforms have these built-in tools that everyone who invests in the first 3 days gets a special reward, or they're incentivized somehow to do something. And you can build incentives and rewards in all kinds of ways. You could tell everyone that if they invest on Earth Day, you're going to plant a tree in their name to try to drive investment to your eco-friendly water containers you're making on Earth Day. So now you're being thoughtful of your timing, you're coordinating with a national or an international known holiday that aligns with your campaign, and you give people incentive. You're going to do something good in their name if they invest, etc. Incentives and rewards are extremely useful because they work. People love them. That's why you get all those offers from everyone in your email. Daily activity part 3, launch and campaigning. You're all set on your selected CF platform, and every element needed to campaign successfully has been produced, and all the online platforms for communication, they're all ready. Now it's time to launch and begin daily campaigning. Competition for attention and funding is a daily grind that requires attention and timely action. Launch day is critical. A failed launch day is difficult to recover from and will limit your exposure on the platform. Winners get more attention and more funding. Most people invest in what others already have invested in. Few like to be first. So, in very real terms, different platforms have different rules, but many of them have basically, they look at how successful you are in the first day and in the first 3 days. And if you're highly successful right out of the gate, they will put you in their featured platform or in their featured section. They will even email the hundreds of thousands of people who use the platform and include your campaign in it, etc. So if you come out strong, not only will the investors who have supported you push you further by posting and sharing what they've done and their investment and their enthusiasm because they want to see it grow and all that sort of thing. But the platform itself will give you a lot of benefit that you will not get elsewhere, as well as you can get press and PR and other attention from all kinds of entities if you can say on the first day or the first 3 days, look how well we've done. We're on track to succeed. Everyone loves that story. People want to write about it, and that just pushes further investment. Daily activity part 3, CF campaign launch. The day of launch is the most critical day of a CF campaign. The success or failure of day 1 through day 3 will either boost your campaign through platform featured selection and investors sharing their investment, or will deflate your campaign by lack of interest, thus making your work to reach your goal much harder. The key to a successful day 1 is having investors already waiting to invest. These early investors can be friends, family, fans, supporters, partners, etc. Because day 1 is so critical, preparing a successful launch means getting everyone you know on board before you launch. Your CF campaign is not a secret. During all of your pre-launch prep, be recruiting supporters for day 1 using all means available, except paid advertising. A campaign I did recently with someone who was launching an apparel item. I would say we spent about 8 months telling the few customers she had and the fans she had that this was in the works and going to happen. And reaching out to all kinds of people within her circle to really build up a list of individuals who promised to be active on day one and participate and share. Right here, the image on the bottom right, journey begins. There's a countdown. You know, you can do everything from countdowns to social media posts to videos to talking about it. Just the more you do, the better. Just like a movie says, you know, coming soon, coming soon, coming soon. You see the poster and you see the trailer. You can even have a trailer or a poster for your CF campaign coming soon on such and such platform to really get everyone excited. And you can incentivize their participation on day one by recognizing that the reward system or the incentive system works. And you can start messaging through email and social media and any form of communication you can, that anyone who invests on day one gets a bonus, you know, handbag for shopping and a tree planted or a this or that, or 10% more stock in the company or whatever. I bring up stock in the company because some of you may be doing very large investments where you're trying to raise, you know, $1 million for a big idea. And that whole universe is really follows the rules of the securities exchange, and et cetera. So you really can give people bonus stock in your company for participating early. Daily activity ongoing. Ongoing campaigning. During your CF campaign, you will be campaigning daily. You may want to employ help in managing the daily campaigning. Every question or inquiry, pardon all the typos in this presentation, every question or inquiry must be answered in 24 hours or less, regardless of what channel it comes through, social media, email, on the CF platform. So these platforms have messaging. People might send you a direct message or even put a public question out on social media. They might respond to an email. They might reach out anyway. You've got to answer them every single day. Emails must go to subscribers at least twice a week. And we can talk about in the Q&A why this is so critical, but the short of it is email is the most successful tool for engaging people in crowdfunding. If you have a strong subscriber list, you're gonna win big by emailing them. And there's ways not to over email individual people. What I mean by twice per week is following the professional guidelines of how much you email people and not re-emailing people who have already opened and clicked. And that's why you need a professional email platform, so you can track activity and do it in a way that is tasteful and respectful. Campaign updates must be posted at least weekly on the platform. Many of these platforms have an area where you can post updates and people can ask questions. You really want to do that. Social media efforts should be made daily. Even if you don't post every day, you need to interact daily, do stories, do temporary, well, anyway, the more you do, the better. Ads and boosted posts should be monitored daily and improved weekly or monthly. You should budget some amount for paid or boosted posts or paid ads, because it really works. You might budget $20 a month or $300 a month. That's based on your need, et cetera. But you should really plan on doing it, because all the social media platforms are really there just to capture eyeballs and capture activity and then make you pay them for success. If you do not do paid ads and boosted posts on social media, your social media outreach will really have a limited effect on your campaign outcome after the first couple of weeks, because everyone in your immediate circle will already know, and they will have already decided whether they should participate or not. You need to reach people who are like your ideal candidate, your customer, your investor, but are people you don't know. The only way to do that is through ads and boosted posts. So let's look at an actual CF campaign on Kickstarter, one of the most popular platforms and successful platforms. I just opened Kickstarter one day and saw this, and this was featured. The reason it's featured is their goal was $50,000, but they're at almost $1.8 million, right? And they still have 15 days to go. I don't know how long this campaign was. Maybe it was a 30, a 60, a 90. So these folks are doing amazingly well. So Kickstarter wants everyone to see this when they land, because they want all of you to do Kickstarter campaigns, because they get a percentage and that's how they make money. So when you go visit this and you see a featured campaign that only wanted to raise 50,000, but they've raised, nearly $2 million for their folding canoe, you're like, wow, I can do it too. And so if you are highly successful early on in your campaign and during your campaign, these platforms are going to push you forward. So they have a picture with a video play button right here, right at the start, showing images. This is where this media is so important. And then as you scroll their campaign, they have, all this copy and media we were talking about, 10 years of folding kayaks. And this is actually a little video that played that showed the kayak unfolding itself, a little sort of stop motion animation. And they're validating themselves. They launched 10 years ago, 5 campaigns ago, 50,000 kayaks ago. Then they validate themselves more with as seen on, and then they talk about they're back to their roots, even though we've been seen on all these fancy things, but we are down to earth people. Don't worry about it. They bring Albert Einstein to the table because they figure their ideal customer knows who Albert Einstein is and cares. They pointing out their prices and their affordability. You see the happy people using it. Then they have all these 1-2 minute assembly. They have all these how to do it videos that they put up on YouTube. These are all their media assets that already existed before they did their campaign. Then they're showing you how they have these little, how easy it is. Look, smiley face, you sit in our easy, open, sustainable cockpit. They call it a cockpit. That happened early in the development. When they're writing their copy, they're picking out adjectives and nouns and verbs that they're going to use and an attitude. I wouldn't necessarily think of my kayak seat as a cockpit, but they decided that's the word that's going to excite investors, right? And so that's where you're identifying elements of your copy you're going to repeat. That means in these videos, every time someone mentions the interior of the kayak, they have to say cockpit, right? They chose ultra stable. That's not a phrase I've ever used in my life. I just say it's stable or unstable. Ultra stable. So they're identifying copy that they feel is compelling or cutting edge or technology minded or whatever, that will connect to their ideal customer. So wait, how does it all work? It says here at the bottom, right? Oh, and they mentioned it's only 18. We've trimmed the fat to make it crazy light. Again, this is a great reference to copy. That's a tonal attitude to say it's crazy light, right? That's a version of slang. And so that goes to the brand attitude. I know more about this brand than if I just had the product in my hand by reading that it's crazy light and it's an ultra stable cockpit. Now I either identify with it or I reject it. I go, oh man, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't like that kind of language, or I'm drawn into it. So you have to be careful with that stuff, but it's very powerful. It's powerful in identifying your customer base. So they go on to explain origami. It's not just a metaphor. It's rated for, it won't break until you fold it 20,000 times. They're showing you the materials and the technology behind it. They're proving, their invention. And then they're showing you the dimensions, and they're referencing how many other things weigh 18,000 pounds. 2 heavy cats, or 18 pounds. 2 heavy cats weigh 18 pounds, or 2 buckets of paint weigh that. So now you have real world references. They're showing you a comparison to other types of products that are similar. This is their leading competition, right? And they've decided how they can use words and weight and cost to show that they're offering a much better value proposition than the leading competition. That took research to do. They're talking about engineering the hell out of everything else, right? Taking away what's unnecessary. Again, tonal language, using what would be a bad word in 1950 to sell a kayak in 2022. And they've created, all kinds of symbols. Their symbols and their color is this orange. They've integrated it into their design features. So they've really thought about how they're going to express themselves, but they've been at this for 10 years. CF campaigns can be for new ideas, new businesses, new products, or it can just be to build up your existing product, brand, store, business, etc. Again, they're using their copy and their tone to engage with people. So we're getting near the wrap up and the Q&A. I put these up here because I think this summarizes the key elements that will make someone actually click invest. Now, all the background is required, the mission, the brand statements, all that stuff. But what I believe will make them actually click invest is your story, your capability to achieve these goals and stuff, and the result for themselves. And so let's just address each of those and then we'll open up to Q&A. Your story, the who, what, where, why, and when all need to be answered in your story. The example we looked at, they talked about, they've been doing this for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. Every great company idea, product, or service has a story behind it, from grandma's recipe to tech innovation. Emotions generate belief, and that drives commitment and participation. Make sure your story is compelling and has emotional content. This can be anything from humor to overcoming tragedy or great struggle. So again, emotion is the key to turning something to turning the experience into an action for the viewer or the reader, etc. Your capability. You must be able to deliver on your promise. Make sure you can fulfill the short-term and long-term goals set by your CF campaign. Fundraising is a business endeavor, meaning there are rules and laws and obligations that must be fulfilled. Can't just ask people to give you a bunch of money, say you tried really hard and it didn't work out. That's not what's going on with a CF campaign. CF campaigns are not something you try. They are something you commit to and are inextricably tied to you and your business in legal terms. You may fail, but you may not quit. You have to follow through on all the promises that you've made within the campaign. And we can talk in the Q&A about those areas. The result for investors. Investors expect a return on their investment. Sure, your family and friends might throw the money in just because they love you and all that, but in general, to get where you're going, people want a return. This return may be goods, services, or financial gains. Be clear on what you are providing your investors, as well as the potential cost to you for failing. And you might promise everyone who invests X, Y, Z. And if you, let's say, set your goal at $50,000 and you make it, but really $50,000 doesn't cover all the potential costs of producing all the products you promised them they would get and shipping them to them because you forgot shipping, you might be in the hole for $5,000 worth of shipping before you're done with this, and you might lose money on it. So make sure you've figured out the financial balance of what you're trying to do and what you're promising to do. Every CF campaign sets out to be a success. Make sure your campaign is a success by taking seriously the value of the goodwill each investor makes in your business. Crowdfunding is a rewarding and effective. Crowdfunding is a great way for business, blah, blah, blah. So let's please open it to Q&A. And then after however much time we have for that. I know this was a long presentation. We're almost at the end of our time. We are going to have a survey and that sort of thing.
Thanks, Baqi. I did launch the poll, and again, your feedback is so important to bringing Baqi back to give us more information on these crowdfunding information and other media needs you may have for your business. Please do take a moment to fill out the poll while we take Q&A. And again, please do write your questions into the chat or Q&A box. We will be monitoring both places.
Or Kelly, since we're really short on time, if you want to let people turn on their mics, if they just want to shout out a question I could address.
Sure, I will start allowing people to talk.
Thanks. So, and if anyone who would like to stay on past the, in 3 minutes, it's 5 o'clock, and that's our, deadline, as it were, for completing this presentation. But I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes and answer questions, because I know that was a long presentation.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to let you know that I'm almost out of batteries.
Okay.
So I will hopefully get in touch with you maybe later.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I'll be in touch with West Company in any case. I just, yeah, I'm literally, it's going to die any second. And
Okay, well, I'm glad it made it through the presentation.
I know, me too. I had like 17%.
Oh, you're good at 17, 9%.
I'm down to, I don't know, 0.1.
Then we'll see you later.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
So I'll take the silence as either I covered everything so well that you're just digesting, or I overwhelmed you with information.
So can you hear me?
Yes.
So I was wondering, how do you basically set the size of the amount of money that you're going to ask for from investors?
Great question. So may I ask, is this for a business, a product, a service?
A business.
Okay. So you want, and this is where a business plan, and maybe your first stop is a business plan, which you would work out with your financial advisor or with consultants at the SBA, or however you want to undertake that. But basically, for a business, there is projected revenue models where you can say, okay, I'm selling bagels, and it generally will cost me this much in rent and staff, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And I can sell these bagels at market cost at this much. And so, here is a fair model based on other similar businesses that where we can look at profit margins. And then you want to say, over a 2-year period, how can I give the investors back their full investment plus whatever interest or rewards they're set to receive in that way, or however it's structured. But basically, you want within 2 years to become profitable beyond the investment, meaning the investment is paid for. Doesn't mean your investors necessarily are gone. Maybe they own parts of the company like stock and they're constantly rewarded, but that 2-year period is realistic. You say 24 months. So it's a mathematical equation based on the margin you can make each day or each month in that business, and what you actually need to start the business. So it's the startup costs, buying the building and the initial inventory and hiring the staff. And so there are formulas that other people, not me, are better at calculating, financial advisors and people who specialize in business plans. And they can say, your startup costs are $100,000 because you need to rent the space and buy the goods and hire the staff, and you're not going to have any profit for a little while, and you need to make payroll and pay all those things. So you're going to need $100,000 over the first X number of months to be able to start making margins or profits, right? And getting a return. And so it's really a formula. Now, platforms, there are rules, like you can only raise up to $700,000 if you don't do an SEC approved, blah, 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 et cetera. So there are ranges, but basically you don't want to take more than, you don't want to be upside down in your investment, have taken more money than you can return to investors, but you need to have enough to cushion any problems. Like if you're dealing in bagels and the price of wheat doubles because there's a war on the other side of the world, then what's going to happen, right? So
Right.
That's the business plan element, and that's not my specialty. So hopefully that answer gives you guidance, and you can work with someone.
Do you just a quick question, follow up? Do you use capitalization rates, also called cap rates?
Yes, that is all part of the equation. And again, I'm not an expert in any way on financing business or business finance. So I don't want to mislead or misguide you in any way on that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And I'll just touch on, make sure that you are able to not only cover your costs of your future business, but any rewards or promises, incentives you made. What do I mean by SEC approved? So the Security Exchange Commission oversees all stock in the United States, and any company that wants to go public, et cetera. There are levels of investment that there's two types of investment. So there's Reg A and Reg B, and that's different than Reg A. It's Regulation A and Regulation B. And so small crowdfunding is not regulated by the Securities Exchange because you're not giving out the equivalent of stock in a company. You're just giving out.
I raise a bunch of money.
I'm sorry? Say again?
Oh, he left.
Oh, okay. And so to continue, so if you are going after that $1 million investment, then you actually have to have all kinds of, you need to be incorporated. You need to have a board of directors. You need to have financials. You need to submit your papers to the SEC for approval. You need to work with a platform that is approved for Reg A fundraising and stuff. And so that's what I mean by SEC approved. If you're going for that big business model, that's great, and you can succeed. I helped a company right here in Mendocino County that was building tractors out of their barn become actually part of a giant stock exchange company worldwide. And we raised $1 million, and then they sold for 20 million, all that good stuff. You can do that on your own, but you do need to meet all the standards that the law requires. Hopefully that answers that question. Any other questions? Someone, I think, who got cut off said, if I raise a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. I'll just say this. If you raise a lot of money, you are legally obligated to fulfill all the promises you made in your campaign. And there may be tax obligations depending on how you spend it, and all that sort of thing should be discussed with a licensed financial advisor, CPA, or consultant through the SBA, etc. There's no such thing as free money in raising money for a business. Now you can and we're not formally discussing that, you can raise money for your medical bills on a crowdfunding site as a donation. But we're not talking about donations. We're talking about people who are either making an investment in exchange for a product or a service or part ownership of the company. So some examples are you may invest $100 into a company and then be able to get the product they sell for half off. You may invest $20 in a company and get the product itself when it will sell for $80 in the future. Excuse me. Too much talking. Anyone else?
If not, I thank you everyone for your time, including Baqi. Thank you so much for such a great,
Thanks.
so-
Sorry, just one last question. One stop help tax and legal. I would say your first stop is to talk to your consultant at the West Business Development Center or your local SBA office. And I'll put on, there's, you can do a quick screenshot of that. Those are SBA offices around the state, I believe. And here are some more. You can do a screenshot of that or look them up. But I would say that's your one-stop shop because you can get a lot of great free advice from their consultants, and they can let you know when you actually need paid advice or paid help, depending on the scale of your project. Okay, now the thank yous and the goodbyes.
Thank you, Baqi. Thank you so much for staying late and answering questions. I'm really glad we were able to get to everybody's questions. And yes, if you are not local to Mendocino, please do check out norcalsbdc.org or wbc.org for a center local to you that can offer you free business advice and help you with possible Kickstarter, or if that's part of your business plan. So thank you, and I do appreciate the feedback. And if you enjoyed this webinar, do check out more of our upcoming ones on our website at westcenter.org, and hope to see everyone at the next one. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone. Bye.